Welcome to Elite Insights with Toni Patillo. I'm your host, and this is where wisdom meets legacy. I just love the whole wisdom meets legacy. Anyway, today's conversation is about something every successful individual eventually asks, and that is, how do I protect myself? How do I grow? How do I pass on what I've built? How do I pass it on, right? And with clarity and peace. So that's a big question. And so today, joining me is Brad Leinberger. He's the president and founder of Seaside Wealth Management in Carlsbad, California. And Brad is a certified financial planner, fiduciary, a wealth coach, and a 5-time top wealth manager in San Diego. But what makes Brad's story so interesting and so compelling is how he walked away from Wall Street when he realized it wasn't helping people. It was about selling. And so he became a firefighter. He went from that to firefighter, and he served his community and later built a firm that's rooted in integrity, clarity, and long-term financial peace. This is one of the very reasons I was excited and still am excited to have Brad on the show today. So welcome to the show, Brad, and we're happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's exciting to be on, and I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to engaging.
Okay, good. We've got a couple of sections we're going to go over, but the first is we want to know, you started on Wall Street, and then you made this drastic shift to become a firefighter. What was driving that? What happened?
You remember that movie? It was called Wall Street. It was the original Wall, not the Wolf of Wall Street, the one before it with Mike Douglas and Charlie Sheen.
Yes.
There were some classic quotes that came out of that movie. Greed is good. Money never sleeps. Just things that are just tasteful.
Yeah.
Michael Douglas played that good villain character, Gordon Gekko. When I was part of that culture, I interviewed at all those big wirehouse firms, the banks, all of them. I felt like I was in a scene out of that movie. It felt like straight from the movie.
Wow.
And all they talked about was how much commission that their brokers could make for themselves and for the firm. And it was all about serving themselves. Right. And they had these proprietary products that gave them bigger fees and more money in their pocket. And they would churn accounts and trade too frequently back in the day when there was lots of cost for that. And the culture was not at all. There was no talk of how can we help people? How can we make a difference? How can we help people accomplish their goals?
Yes.
Which you would think that's what this industry is all about. In fact, it is today, but those wirehouse firms still have that culture of putting themselves first. I wanted to help people. I really did. My best friend gets hired as a firefighter. He says, you got to check this out. You're involved in the community. You're helping people. You're giving back. You're making an impact, making a difference. Mm-hmm. And I went down that road. I ended up getting hired. Started off in Chula Vista, which is where I met my wife, actually. So I guess there was a plan in all this. And I spent 11 years in the fire service, but pretty quickly realized I do have a passion for financial planning. The way I put it is it's like the intersection of helping people, but helping them with their finances. So people and money and finance. And I discovered that there's this whole other world out there that you don't really hear about for independent financial advisory firms. Independent meaning not owned by a bank, not owned by a wirehouse. They're not pushing proprietary products. And really, there's been such a fantastic evolution in this space over the last 30 years where so now today, fast forward to today, those firms are called registered investment advisory firms, and they're registered directly with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And there has been a mass exodus out of the wirehouses and out of the banks to go over to the RIA space. And I really believe this is the future of advice delivery and wealth management. They're free from conflicts of interest. They don't sell things or get paid commissions to sell things. They get paid by clients to give them advice and guidance. Yes. And they are registered directly with the SEC, but it's just such a cleaner business model and just a cleaner model for the retail client.
Yeah. It feels better.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've experienced both these high pressure finance environments and then the life on the line public service with
Yeah.
the fighting. So how did that shape the way you approach wealth management today?
That's a great question. Okay.
Uh,
I spent 11 years as a firefighter, 3 years to train and prepare. So almost 15 years of my life doing that. And I think
Wow.
I hadn't thought about it before, but as I reflected in preparation for this, there's a lot that goes into you must be prepared as a firefighter.
Mm,
Where, for example, you're in a fire, you need to know what's plan A, but what's plan B, what's plan C, and sometimes what's plan D. If everything goes bad and the roof starts falling in on you inside of a fire, where's your escape route? So
yeah.
it's always having contingency plans. And
Yeah.
really, we bring that to every client relationship. Everybody we serve is we have backups to the backup plans for everything from healthcare expenses, long-term care to financial planning. What if markets go south or sideways? So that's definitely a part of the training that was ingrained in me. We bring it to financial planning. In another one, they always taught us in the fire service, in order to effect a rescue, in order to help people, you have to have your breathing mask on first. You have to make sure that your
Yeah.
protective equipment is on first.
Yeah.
And so we really take that to heart here, where we try to do the little things in our personal lives to where we can show up in the best state of mind to help people. And that's exercise, meditation.
Right.
It can be a stressful job. So taking time to make sure that we do take care of ourselves so we can show up in a state of mind to really help our clients. And we're serious about that too.
Yeah, that's very admirable. And because I'm a very avid believer that you have to take care of your own mental, physical, spiritual. You have got to connect on a daily basis before you can engage with people.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can get up at 5 in the morning, 4:30, 5 in the morning, and I spend 2 hours just me and source. Right?
Yeah.
And then I'll let my cats in and then I ease into it. But
Yeah.
I think it's so important. I'm so glad to hear you share this because people take for granted the power of being still and the power of working with personal development tools. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to come up? You've explained this, but you came back to the financial space on your own terms.
Yeah. My firefighter buddies, they thought I was crazy. They're like, why would you leave this job? It's the best job ever. And for them, it was. It is. They're all still doing it. My brother, my best friends they're firefighters and they love it. For me, you're talking about, so I believe I was put here. I was given a skill set. And I believe that with financial planning, I'm using my God-given strengths to be able to help people in the best way that I can. I wasn't feeling fully utilized as a firefighter. I was helping people, but I knew that I could help them on a much deeper level, on a bigger level. And I'll give you the example. You're out there on the front lines and a lot of the calls was going to people who were not feeling well, sick, issues, and we would take them to the hospital and we helped them that day. But then the relationship never went anywhere. It was transactional. It was good work. It was good help. You never got to know your patients. One of the things I love about financial advising is, and now we have a team of people here. We have a whole firm, but there's several hundred families who we work with, and all the advisors here, we have such strong relationships with all of our clients where their spouses, of course, their kids, their kids' spouse, their grandkids, their likes, their dislikes, what keeps them up at night, what their core values are, because we ask those questions, what their goals are. You really become a part of their family. And that's the piece for me that was missing on the fire service side with the patients we were working with. And it's one of the things I really enjoy about financial planning is the depth of relationship that we get to have with our clients. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Beautiful, Brad. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Speaking of which now, and I have a girlfriend who has a fiduciary. She's senior, with husband passed several years ago, but she's got a fiduciary and she doesn't hesitate with letting. So I want to hear your take when you use the word fiduciary proudly,
Yeah.
for our audience, what does that truly mean and why should it matter?
Great question. Okay, so a fiduciary is somebody, believe it or not, this is a shock. This came as a shock to me, but it's true. There are people in my industry. And by the way, you look at all the financial advisors, they all walk, and talk. It's a crowded field. There's so many financial advisors out there. Everybody sounds like they're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They're not. And you have to be really careful as a consumer to look under the hood and peel the layers back a little bit, because there's a lot of people in this industry that have the licensing, but who do not have to operate under the fiduciary standard. So the difference, what a fiduciary is, it's somebody who legally has to put the best interest of their clients first. Imagine that. Shouldn't everybody put the best interest of you think, right? Common sense. Not at all. Be very careful. If your advisor's not a fiduciary, what that means is, let's say there's always probably 3 to 5, there's multiple solutions that can work for clients. Typically, though, one of them is best for the person. Not always, but typically. So firms or advisors who don't operate under the fiduciary standard, they have the ability to do one of the several options that work. And of course, they're going to pick the one that pays them the most.
Okay.
So they'll come up with the solution that basically compensates them the best.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes, here's a classic example. As a fiduciary, okay, let's say when people retire, we always do an analysis on, does it make sense to roll over their old 401k into a traditional IRA? Most of the time it does make sense, because oftentimes you get better investment options in the IRA. 401ks have really limited options. They're missing asset classes. They're also expensive. 401ks have a ton of hidden fees. So often, not always, but often, rolling that 401k over to a traditional IRA makes a lot of good sense. But there's a few exceptions, and I'll give you a really good one. Anytime you have a person who's going to retire at age 55 or later, okay? 55 or later, there's this hidden rule where it's important that people know this. If your money was inside of an IRA and you were 56 years old, and you wanted to retire, if you were going to be taking money out of that IRA, there's a 10% penalty associated with every dollar coming out because you're not 59 and a half, right?
Wow.
But there's a rule that says if you retire and you leave that last 401k in the employer-sponsored 401k plan, you can take money out from between age 55 and 59 and a half and avoid the 10% penalty. So while it's not in the best interest of the advisor, because the advisor wants to roll the 401k to an IRA, they're going to charge fees. And most of the time, it's totally worth it. But in these exceptions, a fiduciary by law would have to say, and they should say, no, your best option, do not roll this over to an IRA. I'm not going to earn a fee on this thing at all. The best thing for you is to keep it inside of a 401k so you avoid this 10% penalty.
Wow. Yeah.
And
that's important.
Common sense. You would think everybody should, the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. Sadly, I think there's just this long history on Wall Street of Wall Street's for Wall Street. They want to line their pockets. Yeah. That's the beauty of the RIA space now. It's for Main Street. It's for mom and pop. It's for the average person who wants good advice and wants to know that their advisor's looking out for them.
That's so important. I don't think most people realize the difference.
I do. And I also think that I've seen it. I think people get caught up in the name brand.
Right.
Merrill Lynch.
Right.
Oh, Ameriprise.
Right.
Morgan Stanley. You see the advertisements on TV. You see the whatever it. But don't let any of that fool you. They're for themselves.
Yeah. Thank you for opening our eyes. This is critical information, especially for independent business owners. And they're getting up there in age and they have to make very smart choices. So you got to be with somebody who's going to be working for you specifically to your betterment. So when somebody comes to you, oh, this one is an interesting. Many high earners think that they're financially secure, but they don't necessarily mean peace. They don't necessarily feel peace. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the biggest blind spots that you see amongst most of these families?
Oh gosh, that's another great question. Toni, you are good at asking questions. I appreciate this. Yeah, so a couple things. Essentially, what you're saying, what I see sometimes, just because people either have a high income or have a lot of money, that doesn't always equate with peace. Sometimes there's more stress the more
Yes.
money and income you have.
Yeah.
And I think the real way to cut through it and the real way to solve it and to bring peace is to shine a bright light. Everybody needs a plan. Everybody needs a financial plan. And to go through the planning process, it starts with what are your values? What's important? We actually have an exercise where we take people through core values and we figure out what are your core values. And most folks haven't really thought about it to that depth and degree. And so you start there, you help them make goals, and the goals need to be tied to their values.
Right.
And then you take a financial inventory and you're helping them. And a good financial advisor is going to do the heavy lifting. It's just they're going to guide their client on this process. But you're helping the client to get a really good inventory of their assets, their liabilities, what debts or what they owe. You're going to help people figure out their living expenses. And so on that note, I think what happens with higher income earners is there's this term that we call lifestyle creep, where the more money you make, now you maybe get a nicer car and you have nicer experiences, nicer trips, and you make money, you spend money, you make money, you spend. And there's nothing wrong with spending money. You work hard, you've earned it, you should.
Yeah.
But again, if done in the absence of a well-constructed plan, to me, that's the answer to your question. That's what's causing the anxiety is people just don't know. And so by going through this planning process, it doesn't mean that you have to stop spending or reduce your spending. Not at all. It just means let's take a real honest look. How much is coming in? How much is going out? How much are you saving? When do you want to retire? Maybe you're retired now. Do you have a business? Do you want to sell it? What does that look like? It's just structuring things in such a way to have, and then like I mentioned earlier, you got to have a backup because
a backup to the backup.
Yeah, that's right. Because life never goes exactly to plan. But I think it's that whole process of going through the planning phase. The feedback that I hear consistently from people is that it's just they're relieved. They're just like, oh, that was great. And people are often surprised. Sometimes we'll get this thing where they don't realize that they can stop working. They don't realize that they have enough. They just don't know. And a good planning process will share with people how much is enough, when can they stop, when can they just relax.
I have so many clients right now, Brad, that are seniors, and they bought their properties 27, 30 years ago, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're sitting on a 2% interest on their mortgage.
Yeah.
Roll very little.
Yeah.
And yet, many of them do not have a plan. So they go into this stress mode of like, how long is this going to last me? Or am I going to be able to live? How long can I live on this? And I can't downsize because if I sell, I'm going to be hit with capital gain. And I'm going to have to pay this higher interest if I go somewhere else. They may be able to take advantage of the Prop 19, maybe.
Right.
There are reverse products that are available that they can lean into, but that person has to be very well educated on that reverse product.
Correct.
Right.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah, because that's another area that gets really sticky, and it has over the years. I just wanted to plug that because we're seeing a lot of that today. So I feel like I want to tell them they need to meet you. And they just need to have a consultation so they can get an idea, right?
100%. And it's interesting because I think everything you laid out there is so spot on the money. And there's not a one size fits all. There's not a cookie cutter answer.
Right,
and you were touching on a couple of options for people in that space. And you nailed it too. the core issues, they have all these embedded gains because they've been in a home for a long time. They
Yeah.
have a really low interest rate and probably a lower property tax payment than they would
Yes,
otherwise.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
for some people, the right answer is going to be stay in the home, age in place. So then you have to look at their assets and their other income sources. Can they afford that? And if they can't, then to your point, yeah, there are some reverse products, and we don't do any sort of reverse mortgages, but we coordinate with people that do. But you're
Yeah.
spot on. There are some today that space is much better than it was 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
There's some fantastic products in that space. So for some of your audience, that might be the right answer. For others, it's okay. Let's do some tax planning. Let's take a look at your tax return. Let's model. And don't forget, any home improvements that you've done over the years increases your cost basis. So that lowers the tax bill. And you probably know this too, but the Section 121 exclusion is that every person gets to shelter $250,000
Right. That's
per
right.
person of taxes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a married couple could shelter the first $500,000 of gains completely tax-free. So
Yeah.
we'll model that. We'll take the most recent tax return, put it in, play with the numbers, show the capital gains, and then we can come up with pretty quickly, all right, here's the estimated federal and state tax bill that we see.
Right.
And then we'll know, okay, after closing costs and everything else, paying off the mortgage, how much is left? And then we'll say, okay, let's talk about where you might think about moving. And then maybe you pay all cash for something somewhere else. And then how much is left after that? Start generating. So anyways, we'll take people through the whole exercise.
Yeah.
But you're right. It can be a difficult decision for folks, especially if they've been in the home for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're seeing so much of that right now. And I just want to share this, and I hope you other realtors are hearing me. This is not just about the commission at all. We happen to make a commission if we sell, but if it's not in the best interest of the client to sell, then we can't be pushing them. We can't be pushing for a listing. Yeah, we have to advise them, consultants, and we have a vetted network of resources that we can tap into that specialize in these other areas. So that goes a long way when you're working with clients who you really know that you're working on in their best interest.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that's key. That is key. I want to stop over here first. Yeah, you went through that whole step process, which I think is key. Now, this next section is talking about retirement wealth and legacy planning. You teach retirement planning today courses. What are the most misconceptions that people have about retirement?
Oh, I'll tell you the biggest miss, hands down, is it's so clear. People don't realize. So when they're in the grind and the hustle and bustle of life and work, when the pre-retirement, they're sitting there going, if I could only just retire, I'll be able to relax. I'll be able to feel more peace, less anxiety, less of a crunch. There's some truth to that. And retirement's great. But here's the missing link. People they need to figure out what gives them a sense of purpose and meaning in life. Okay. And not to get too deep, but we have to, because what I see, people think while they're working and they're in the hustle and bustle, oh, I'll go on a bunch of cruises, or I'll travel a bunch, and I'll play a bunch of golf or pickleball or whatever it is that they do. And all that's fun, and they should do those things. But if that's all they're doing, it's not enough to provide that sense of meaning and purpose.
Right.
And I've seen, fortunately, we prep our clients. We take them through, it's like landing a plane, the year or two before retirement. We have a whole checklist. We mail them books that we insist that they read about. And so that is the biggest miss, is that people get into retirement, and there's a bunch of studies out there. The instances of depression in the first year to two of retirement are very high. This is very real. And so for the audience, I would just encourage them, think about the fun stuff. You should go have as much fun as you can. Yes.
Yeah.
what do you want to do with your time? Because we have a saying, when you retire, every day is like Saturday, and that's every day's off. So do you want to, I'll give you some examples of what I see, and there's not a right or wrong answer for anybody, but people must spend the time to think about this. Is it volunteering in the community? Maybe it's helping seniors who need help or have a companion, or maybe it's teaching kids to read. Maybe it's volunteering at church or whatever they do. So for some, it's part-time work. They can go do the job that they never did while working because maybe it didn't pay enough, whatever that might be. But also the part-time work can provide a little bit of that social outlet.
Yes.
For people. Some people need a little help with that social outlet. So maybe it's part-time work. But whatever it is, whatever the case, I do think we're not talking about this enough as a society, that in that next phase of life, you've got to figure out beyond just the recreation and the fun, what is it that gives you that sense of purpose and meaning? And the social connection is the next thing. It's so important.
Yeah.
We all know some people, we know people who have no problem socially. They've got friends everywhere they go. So for those, I'm not talking to that person. I'm talking to the person that maybe doesn't have, maybe work provide some of that social outlet, that social interaction. And without work, they're going to have to figure out, how do I get more social interaction in my life? Because that too, without that, I see retirement can be very empty, a little bit meaningless.
Lonely.
So those lonely, yeah, absolutely. So those two things, the purpose and meaning combined with the social connection, are the two biggest misses when it comes to retirement.
That's excellent input. I think people underestimate the importance of having a plan and knowing exactly, being of service or having a purpose. And also keep staying physically active. That's another thing where people that are not moving.
What is it? Move it or lose it. It's
Move
true.
it or lose it. I would say motion is the lotion for the body.
Yes, I agree. And I'll share one other thing. The stuff I mentioned on the planning side, on the technical side, the other biggest misconception, people are significantly underestimating how long they're going to live. I teach these classes, and at every class I say, okay, by a show of hands, who knows somebody who has lived to 100, is either 100, over 100 in a life today, or made it to 100. Every hand in the room goes up these days. And so I think that one of the challenges, we all know people who have been who have passed away too soon. Cancer is pretty significant these days. So in our minds, I talk to a lot of people, and they acknowledge that as a society, life expectancy has significantly increased. Because by the way, the Social Security, full retirement age on Social Security benefit used to be 65.
Okay.
It's now 66 or 67, depending on birthday. It was the reason why 65, it was designed at a time when people would retire and then die at 65, right? And so there's a 50% chance for a married couple, 50%. So one of them is probably going to make it into their 90s, early to mid 90s. So I think from a technical planning side, people are significantly underestimating how long they're going to live, which has a ripple effect. The implications are pretty powerful. I see people making poor decisions on the timing of when to take Social Security. And that's a whole conversation we can get into. But I see a lot of mistakes around, especially if someone's married, because it's a two-person decision, not a one-person. And then people that also leads to inflation is real, as we all know. There's that song, Party Like It's 1999. Remember that song?
Yes.
I want to buy groceries like it's 1999, right? Because it's expensive. So you combine that, you live longer and longer, and everything you purchase gets more and more expensive. People really underestimate that. And so they're making some poor decisions, not only around Social Security, but Medicare and also their investments. So you combine all this, and then they get into their 70s and then into their 80s. And they have some regrets about some of those decisions they made in their 60s. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I can see that's a big thing where people are underestimating just how long they're going to live, and a plan of What is it going to cost me to hang around?
And you asked earlier about why people might be feeling anxiety, even people with high incomes and assets, anxiety. My antidote to that is the plan. That's what the plan solves for you, is it will show you how much do you need? What is your number? You remember those kind of the little somewhat cheesy commercials? I think it was ING, and people were walking around with a number over. What's your number for retirement?
Yes.
And it's a
That's
little,
funny.
but there's a sliver of truth there that awareness, that knowledge of what is your number, and it's different for everybody, and it's all
For everyone.
unique to your lifestyle preferences. But I think it's important to know those things.
Absolutely. When you're talking about high net worth families and business owners, how does retirement planning change when significant assets and legacy goals are involved?
Yeah, so we got to talk a little bit about estate planning, and we've had some major tax legislation that was passed in 2025, both on the income tax side and also on the estate planning side. And I would say that people there's a little window of time where tax rates are lower today. And so these things were supposedly made permanent. I'm cynical about it. I think you look at the tax rates are low today.
Yeah.
I don't think they will stay low forever. You look at the amount of
Except it's in the high fives now, right? Or am I thinking about a different tax? I'm thinking about the mortgages.
Okay, you're thinking. Okay, so that's the other thing I was going to touch on is the estate tax exemption, and this ties into this is the answer to your question: is business owners or anybody that has significant net worth today, right now, under current law, the estate tax exemption is $15 million per person. So what that means is, if you have a couple, could have up to $30 million of net worth that passes to the next generation without having to pay estate tax on it. As soon as they start going north of 15 per person or 30 per couple, then the estate tax on that, on every dollar north of those numbers, is 40%, 40 cents on the dollar. Okay.
Interesting.
So, so for families in that situation, there's a couple of things they should be thinking about right now. I believe pendulum swing. Do I think that we're going to have 15 million indexed to inflation for the rest of our lives? I, for one, don't. I could see that pendulum swinging back. And it all ties to, you look at the national deficit right now, and interest rates are higher than where they've been the last 10, 15 years. So the cost to service the national deficit's going up. The last time we were in a situation like this as the country was coming out of World War II, and I study this thing. So, where were tax rates post World War II? Sky high. So right now they're very low. I think tax rates are going up. I think the estate tax exemption is going to come down, which is going to force more of people's wealth to be taxed. So all that to say, take advantage of it right now. So from an estate planning perspective, if this situation is describing anyone in the audience, they can be gifting $19,000 per year, per person per year, and it does not count against their lifetime exclusion amount. So husband, wife could give 19 per person to each child. So that'd be 38,000. If the child's married, you can give 38 to the spouse. So 76,000 a year. You can do that. And it doesn't have to be family. It could be anybody you want, grandkids, whatever you want. Questions that come up. Is it taxable to my kids or whoever gets? No, it's not taxable to them. And the follow-on question is, do I get a tax deduction for making it? No, unfortunately you don't. But what you're doing is and this all again comes back to planning. Okay. Somebody is in the situation. They need to do multi-decade plans where they're looking out 10, 15, 20 years down the road to see, is there going to be an estate tax exemption later? Because they may not have a problem today because those numbers are awfully high today, but they might have a problem in 10 or 20 years, and they should look at that and they should know.
Yeah, they should be clear about what's coming.
That's right.
How do estate planning and wealth strategy intersect in a way that most people don't realize it? How do these two things intersect?
Okay. So
there's wealth planning and then estate planning.
Yeah.
And then there's wealth strategy.
Yes. And the tension point in this is, first we must solve for how much does the person need to ensure that they don't run out of money in their lifetime. That's what we got to solve for first. And then The follow on is, okay, are they going to have an estate tax problem down the road? Do they have an income tax problem today or down the road? And oftentimes people do. And a really common thing is for those 401ks that people have put money into over the years, as they age, the required minimum distributions that the IRS forces you to take out of there, we often see that people have large RMDs coming down the road, which pushes them up into higher tax brackets. So there's all sorts of strategies that people can do. Now, it takes time, so you have to get ahead of the curve, but there's all sorts of strategies that people can literally smooth out that lifetime tax bill so they pay less in the future, and it can save them hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've seen. And the same thing applies for the estate tax situation as well. So that intersection is, okay, how much is enough? How much do I need to cover my needs? What's my lifetime tax bill going to be? What are things I can be doing right now to lower that future tax bill? What's my estate tax bill going to be for the kids or grandkids? Strategies I need to be doing. And good financial planning is not a one and done process. It is literally
process.
3 times a year. We're meeting with clients and we're touching on these points 3 times a year, every year, to work through this process. And it does create successful outcomes.
If you do the work, you're going to see the benefits from it.
That's right.
So let's talk about the business owners and the exit strategy. This is a great topic, exit strategy. And for all these small business owners, we specialize in business owner exit strategy. So what are some of the critical mistakes that entrepreneurs make when planning to sell or transition their companies?
The biggest mistake I see people make is they don't get ahead of the curve soon enough. They wait until too late. And all of a sudden they wake up and they're like, okay, I think I'm sometime this year, next year, maybe I'm ready. So the succession planning, the continuity planning, that takes time to really do it effectively and really lower the tax bill and the state tax bill. It takes time, and it takes a thoughtful approach to this. So that's the number one mistake I see people make. And then thinking through, okay, what's the best way? Are we looking to sell to an outside party? Are there family members that potentially are going to get involved? Is there another group that's inside of the company that's going to get involved? And the answer to those questions, the strategies involved are very different depending on what. And oftentimes the solution that pays the most upfront doesn't necessarily put the most in your pocket time. So it's being really, and all these decisions need to be made in the context of your financial plan and also with your family plan, being what lines up with your family goals and where do you see yourself personally. So I get it. I'm a business owner too. You are working hard, and sometimes business owners they're doing a great job running their company and doing their thing, but they oftentimes are just too busy to pause long enough to reflect and be thoughtful about these things. And that's normal. But if they're working with the right financial advisory team, the right team is going to ask the right questions and be respectful of the fact that the business owner is busy. So let's do this in a fairly compact manner that doesn't take too much time and thought, but putting that time in much earlier than anybody would ever suspect is important.
Yeah, I think you're right to really address it earlier than later.
I would suggest if you own a business, even if you have no clue when you want to sell it, I think if you own a business, you should engage in these conversations now, just so you have an idea of what are the possibilities that are out there.
Yeah. Excellent. This is all good stuff. Let's talk a little bit about, we talked about the business owners and the exit strategy. That's interesting. How do you help someone move from building wealth to structuring it for generational impact?
Yeah. There's we have an analogy, and it's just, unfortunately, it's just so true. So you think about people who climb Mount Everest, and it's the highest mountain on the planet. Do you know that more people die on the way down from Everest than they do on the climb up? And I think
Wow.
there's a couple of interesting factors that play into this. I think people are tired. But I also think people let down their guard a little bit because they've reached
Feel
this
like
summit,
going, yeah,
and it's like maybe
yeah.
maybe their concentration or focus lapses just long enough to where that
Mm.
one mistake, that one slip, out. Okay.
Wow.
And I think that financial planning is a lot similar to that, where there are strategies that you need to use to get up the mountain. And I would equate up the mountain as you're working, you're building, you're preparing. The peak of Mount Everest would be the retirement date, the retirement party. You've hit that Everest. And now on the way down, you want to take your lifetime of savings and work and make that stretch now that you don't have a paycheck coming in anymore. So the strategies that people use to get to the top of the mountain are completely different than the strategies people need to use to get down the mountain. And so I think that there's a lot of mistakes made on the back half where people are just, we don't talk about this a lot. And unfortunately, we don't learn any of this stuff in school. And I think we should.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it's a
it's
real
true.
miss. We're not taught financial planning. And I just watch people make tremendous mistakes because they just don't know. They don't have a partner. They don't have the education. It's not their fault. It's
Yeah.
just, it's almost like our society is almost set up to tilt in favor of the financial institutions, the Wall
Yeah.
Street, the big banks. As a culture, as a society, we're not equipped. And that's why I teach these classes. I want to empower people and educate as many people as possible. So that's why
That's
thank you
awesome.
for having me on here too.
Yeah. So tell us about when you're a husband and a father of 4. How has raising children shaped your philosophy around money and life legacy? How old are your kids?
Oh gosh. So I've got a sophomore. I have 2 boys and 2 girls, and I have a sophomore and a freshman in high school. Those are the guys,
Okay.
and the girls are in 4th and 2nd grade. And
Oh,
how it shaped me is I want to impart what I'm really passionate about is imparting wisdom and life lessons into the kids.
Mhm.
Teach them about they all have to do jobs around the house. They have chores. They do get paid money, not a lot, but I want them to start to handle finances young. With the money, we make them give some away to charity or, good causes.
oh,
Give, save, spend. So they're
yeah.
learning that you work hard. It's okay to spend your money. That's okay. But you got to take care of others, but you also got to save.
Yeah.
So the boys, they now have jobs outside of the house as well. And they're opening up Roth IRAs. And so we're teaching them from a young age
Yeah.
how to be good stewards and how to handle their finances. Unfortunately, I've seen so many families be ripped apart by money. And it's a pretty common thing where
Mhm.
the matriarch, patriarch, they've done all the right things. They've saved, they've done a good job of saving and building wealth. But there's a big miss. And then this goes back to one of your earlier questions. What are some of the big misses? This is a huge one. They have adult children and they've failed to have what we call the family meeting. And this is something we
Wow.
do for our clients, not necessarily every year, but on a consistent basis. It's getting the matriarch and or patriarch of the family together and with the kids at the table so mom and dad can share with
Mhm.
their adult kids, these are our wishes, these are our intentions, whatever they may be. I've seen fantastic families who you would never think this could ever happen to be absolutely destroyed and ripped apart
Mm.
over money.
Yeah.
And so and it all could have been avoided by just having the conversation. So,
And educating themselves
some,
and just having an open conversation. That whole subject of money, some families, is just really, it's toxic and it's abrasive. And sometimes it just shuts people down
You're right.
because they don't like the ad. You can be as successful as whatever, but for whatever reason, you do not like to have the conversation about money.
That's right.
Yeah.
You have nailed it. And that's why these family planning meetings are so important because look, we're not equipped to do this. And it can be an awkward subject. And so a well-guided meeting makes all parties at the table feel comfortable and creates a safe space and doesn't have to disclose too much in the way of details. It can disclose just enough. Some parents want to disclose all of it. Others are like, no, I want to be more private. But there are some important things that need to be passed on to the kids. Number one is the value system of the family that passed down. And number two, if there are any gifts or if there are any intentions, I'll give you an example. This is a common one. Mom and dad die, and one of the children thought that this property was going to go to mom and dad. Always said that it might not be a property, it might be a personal effect of mom and dad, but this thing was going to go. Mom always said this was going to me, and then come to find out, the reading of the will, it's to be sold or given to charity or given to another sibling.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the siblings aren't talking anymore. They're fighting. They're not talking over something that's silly, and it's so avoidable. So I always tell my clients, if you're in a situation where you have kids and you have some wealth, let's be communicating to the kids about your wishes. Let's not let them hear your wishes for the first time at the reading of the will. Let's avoid that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are so many nightmare stories where I had a client who had 2 different trusts, and he funded most of his real estate in the trust, but he changed his trust every 2 years or whatever. I mean, it was amended and amended. And a lot of the times in the end, when he passed on, he had not instructed the new trustee that he was going to be the trustee. Like, he never told this person. All of a sudden, they get this call saying, this person has transitioned. You're the successor trustee. And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then the person who thought they were supposed to be,
they're like,
they weren't told that they're no longer. And then you have to show the papers and
Oh, and Toni,
I've seen that.
Yes, that is a classic case that you're quoting. That's a classic case. And then as well as I do, that's a lot of work. Being a trustee of an estate, that's a ton of work. And to just spring it on someone without any advance notice, it's cruel and unusual punishment right there.
That is cruel and unusual. I have to say, even with my own trust, when I first developed years ago, and I never had kids. I'm married now, but I have kids, but I have my business.
Yeah.
And I had to think about, that was the one thing that I experienced when I was building the trust.
Yeah.
Is I had to think about who could handle the successor trustee role. And there's some people that would not be a good pick. There's other people that are real business minded and they're sharp and you trust them. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a family member.
That's right.
But it needs to be somebody that can handle the role of responsibility.
And I think in many cases, especially with what I've experienced and what I've seen, I think in many cases, you can make a strong case not to have one of the kids be the successor trustee. Really, because it just sets the family up, nasty fights. It's better to bring in an outside party to do that, because they can just be very objective. The emotions, the kids aren't getting pitted against each other. In many cases, I recommend that children aren't chosen to be successor trustees.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree 100%. You've experienced a lot of things. You've gone through Wall Street. You've gone through the firefighting thing. All these things were very fascinating to me, and I'm sure to our listeners, because you have a true purpose and you have real shared values, and you're helping these people to structure their world and their situations, which is, it's mind-blowing, but you've really got to have the skin for this. And obviously you do. And you're passionate about this. This isn't like a job. This is your passion.
Yeah.
And you can see that and you can hear that in our conversation here. And it makes such a difference for the consumer to have somebody who is genuinely, authentically caring about your well-being. I want to make a difference here. I want to make an impact. And this is all about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if somebody listening today wants to strengthen their financial foundation, what is the first step that they should take?
I would say that everybody out there needs a financial plan. And so that to me is step one. And I would say find a great fiduciary financial advisor that preferably works for an RIA, registered investment advisory. If people don't know or have one, get in touch with me. I'd be happy to sit down and take people on a guided journey to really help them figure out what they want the future to look like. And then once we know what we want the future to look like, the rest is easy. We can back into the answers. We'll take a look at what's going on today. And then the plan is going to be a roadmap, a blueprint to help people get from where they're at today to where they want to be in the future. So I think everybody needs to have a financial plan, and really not all cases, but I think in many cases, it really helps to have that trusted partner on the journey who, if nothing else, is a thought partner, is an organizer of ideas, and can help to shape the vision of the future and then bring it into what do I need to be doing today to live into my ideal version of the future. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So let's just talk about mindset, and then we'll talk about wrapping up. We've really covered a lot of things today, a lot of great things. But what's one mindset shift that separates people who simply accumulate wealth versus from those who build lasting legacy? What is the mindset shift?
Abundance. And what I mean by that, so let's contrast that with scarcity. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen people continue to work, continue to grind, continue to accumulate. They don't take the trips. They don't give it away to people or kids that they want. They're just hanging on to it.
Yeah.
And it's that scarcity mindset.
That's a scarcity mindset for sure.
It's amazing because once you take them through the planning process and it's so cool. They have that aha moment. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't have to live with this anxiety and stress anymore. And they're like, you're telling me I can stop working and saving now? And I'm like, yeah, I wish we met 5 years ago because you could have stopped then. They're like, oh, okay. And this sense of really, and all of a sudden, then it starts to translate into this abundance mindset. And I don't mean, when I say abundance, I don't mean frivolous. I don't mean wasteful. So you still need to make prudent decisions. But if done in the context of a plan, hey, guess what? You can afford to take the two international trips this year. You can afford it. You can afford. One of the major pain points we see with our clients is their adult children. Everybody's worried about their adult children launching and being successful, or maybe it's buying houses. Southern California is very expensive, as real estate is expensive. As this is a major pain point. Families having the ability to help the kids or grandkids get set up with the down payment on the house. Guess what, Mr. and Mrs. Client? You can afford this. And it's all of a sudden the relief, and then it's replaced with joy. They're just so happy. And when they can help their kids get set up with, whether it's a house or whatever else, it brings that sense of joy to them. It's that abundance mindset.
It's the abundance mindset.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to plug a little thing here. There's a guy that I listen to on a regular basis. My voice is going away. But have you ever heard of Neville Goddard?
Yes. Do I need to start listening to Neville? Yeah. Okay.
Every morning I listen to Neville before I do my stretching and whatnot, right? But I turn on Neville every day. And I got to tell you, he sets the tone. He lives at the end, meaning assume it's already done. It's not, I want to be wealthy. It's not, I want to be. No, I am well. I am abundant. I am healthy. I am. And when you start taking that on, the universe has to organize.
Yeah.
It's a mindset thing. If you think that you're broke, you're going to be broke.
Yeah. Right.
It's crazy. But anyway, that was
Neville Goddard. I'll check him out.
Neville Goddard.
Thank you.
Just pull him up.
Thank you.
So, Brad, thank you so much for sharing not just your expertise, but your journey from Wall Street to the firehouse to building a firm center with trust and integrity. It's very powerful. Very powerful. And I think you're one of them. I think we had a wealth. No, we haven't had anybody that's designed like you are. And so I'm really excited because I can share this with my clients. This conversation that we've had as a drop in an email saying, listen to this. And I think people will respond to it. not just for business purposes, but they'll respond because it will wake them up to say, really do need to plan. I need to put my plans in.
Toni, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed our time together, and it's been a pleasure being on your show. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And I just want to say one thing before we close. Is there any exciting things that are happening at Seaside Wealth Management? Or you talked about your classes. How do we find out about where your classes are? And how can we take them and how can we share?
Okay, great question. So we do a lot of local classes and we're in the San Diego area, but we wanted to solve for what about people that can't make it to San Diego? How do we help more people just to give back and help? We created a retirement planning masterclass, and it's 2.5 hours of content. It covers all 7 disciplines of the certified financial planning process. So everything, it's designed to help empower people around their finances, to educate them, help them make good decisions. And really, it's just packed with a lot of wisdom. So they can find it on our website, and there's no cost for this. It's just part of what we do. It's part of our ethos. We want to educate as many people as we can.
That's beautiful.
So it's seasidewealth.com.
Okay.
And they can find their retirement planning masterclass on the website, and it's full of a lot of good info.
And are they like webinars or?
Yeah, this is one big webinar with lots of different sections in it. Yes.
Great. That's awesome. I want to thank you again, and I want to thank our listeners today. Particularly, this is for tuning into Elite Insights with me, Toni Patillo. This is where wisdom meets legacy. So, wealth isn't just about numbers. It's about clarity, peace, and the legacy you choose to leave behind. And by the way, your legacy doesn't have to start when you die, when you make your transition. You can build legacy right now and affect it. So anyway, thank you guys for listening. And thank you, Brad, for joining us today. We will definitely spread this wisdom with our fans.
Thanks for having me, Toni.
You're welcome. Thank you.